Great, thank you. Good morning, everyone. So lovely to see so many people on our call today. So thank you for joining us. I'm Graeme Fitzjohn. I'm Head of Strategic Partnerships at AKG. Hope you're all enjoying this wonderful continuous summer. It's even sunny in Wales and it has been for weeks and it's wonderful. So I hope you're all enjoying it. So I'm joined today by colleagues Natasha Harvey, who's our Business Development Director, and my colleague Steve Howe, who is our Director of Delivery Partners. So Steve will be doing a presentation a little bit later on. But thank you very much for joining us for this webinar concerning the future employment support. What we'd like to do today is just recap on what we understand about future employment support from the webinars that DWP have been running recently. Let you know about the CPAs contract package areas that are of interest to us as in terms of sort of being a prime provider, and provide a bit of information about how we intend to develop a delivery partnership for the CPAs that we're interested in. Steve will then say a few words about our approach to managing and supporting delivery partners, and then how we would like to engage with you over the coming months as well. And then there'll be plenty of time, hopefully, for some Q&A at the end. So queue up your questions. Joe, my lovely colleague there, will be sort of scanning the Q&A and looking at the chat and trying to find any questions there. And then, like I say, we will answer as many as we can. And those that we can't answer, then we will do on a Q&A and we'll post that as a narrative, as a Word document, so with the slides and everything else after. So yes, the first question I know is going to be, are the slides going to be available after this webinar? Yes, we're recording the webinar, and then the slides, Q&A, etc. will all be provided after. So yeah, so let's move on. So first up then, just a bit of a recap of what DWP have told us about the future employment support and kind of pulling out kind of the relevant elements to highlight for this meeting. So future employment support will have two routes for participants to access. There'll be the mandatory participation route for long-term unemployed people 25 plus, who can access 12 months on their universal credit claim, and for young people 18 to 24, who can access at 6 months on universal credit claim. There will be voluntary participation entry points as well for people who are on universal credit, so for lone parents and lead carers, and disadvantaged groups, and all the disadvantaged groups that you can see I've listed at the bottom, so include ex-offenders, ex-carers, those who have experienced or experiencing homelessness, veterans, and so on. But you can see the list there. And the disadvantaged groups, I suppose, are fairly common as a group that DWP recognise. So the support that future employment support will provide includes employability support, skills training, work experience opportunities, and so on, matching participants with employers through work trials, jobs fairs, and job brokering, and of course job searching, intensive and repeated support with job search, applying for jobs, job interview techniques, and so on. Support in managing health conditions in the workplace, so a recognition that this is required and is a real common need that people have to retain resilience in the workplace, whether that's for mental health, musculoskeletal, physical injuries, and so on. But the support that the programme will also include is around sort of barrier-based support for complex issues, so housing, transport, childcare, and those kind of needs that people will need or need available to them to be able to access and sustain employment. Specialist support as well. So DWP have said that they would expect to see some specialist support to remove some of those additional barriers that will be potentially stopping people moving into employment, such as ESOL or support with addiction problems, or those that have neurodiverse needs as well. And then finally, support for self-employment, which has been explicitly sort of stated by DWP as some work that they would expect deliverers to provide. Just looking at the right-hand side of that screen then, so something that DWP have said is that they would expect a mandatory minimum 25% of total contract value going to SME subcontractors for the delivery of services. That's one way it's been written, but it's been written in slightly other ways as well. So we're hoping to get a little bit more detail around exactly what that means in terms of the delivery of services or contract value or contract spend and so on. But DWP are very keen and to see that as being a key part of the delivery structure for future employment support. and that their aspirational target is that 40% of spend will go to VCSEs and SMEs. What they also stated in the last market engagement event in July is that the payment model is 70% payment by results and 30% as a service fee, with what they indicate is 70% of that 30% service fee being paid in the first 24 months. And that would be to support sort of mobilization of the program and for it to kind of bed in and to really start delivering. But obviously what that does mean is that predominantly in years 3 and subsequent years beyond that is that it is predominantly a PBR payment mechanism. So it's something really to consider, as it will obviously something that we will be considering as well in terms of developing a supply chain and delivery partnership. DWP are particularly keen to co-design with mayoral strategic authorities, and we've heard recently from the new Prime Minister, Andy Burnham, that there is a real desire to devolve employment support. At the moment, DWP have said that they are going along as planned, but you know, this a lot of what they are saying at the moment is indicative, and timelines are indicative, so there is an element of the unknown in the future in terms of how employment support might be devolved. But like I say, at the moment, this is the course that they're going on. So referral period for 3 years on the program with an option to extend for a further 2 years. And procurement is expected to formally begin on the 26th of November, and that is still an indicative date. Indicative budget for future employment support across England is 1.2 billion, and they stated at the last webinar that there are 395,000 starts expected on the program across 12 contract package areas. So, so the long list of CPAs of interest for us are these. I think we stated 6 previously on the invitation to this webinar. Well, we've added a 7th because we've looked at all of London and included that. So what you'll see there are the CPA areas that we are interested in. You'll see there where we have current restart delivery, but also where, you know, color coded also areas within those CPAs where we have sort of wider service delivery across the AKG business group. What we're not saying here is that because we're delivering in those areas, that we're not looking for delivery partners, because certainly in terms of our restart delivery in the areas that are highlighted green, we don't deliver in all of those areas directly. We have, you know, 9 end-to-end delivery partners that we work very successfully with and very closely with in some of those areas. So we're not saying here that we're only looking in the areas where we don't have any current delivery. Well, we are looking across the whole patch and interested in having those conversations with potential delivery partners in all areas. I will stress as well, it's a long list of CPAs. Something to bear in mind is that there are various stages to this procurement with DWP. So we've got to get through the first stage first and assume that we would get down selected to be able to bid for the future stages, you know, stage 2 and into stage 3. So we don't know at this stage if we will be selected to bid in all of these or some of these or so on. But these are the areas of interest because we have some presence there. So developing a delivery partnership. So our approach, what are we looking to do? So firstly, kind of set out our specialisms as an organization. So if you're not familiar with AKG, we are 4 businesses in the UK. AKG Employment, that is the organization that essentially delivers our Restart Prime contract. Our specialism there is about helping people into sustainable employment and career progression. And bring all of the kind of employability skills and support through that part of the business. We also have a skills business, AKG Learning, delivering apprenticeships, ESOL, employability skills, some adult skills, some bootcamp delivery, which is around the country in different areas and deliver different types of services. We have Intuitive Thinking Skills, which is an organisation that's been running for over 20 years. They're a mindset and behaviour change organisation. And I suppose one of the fundamental features of Intuitive Thinking Skills is the lived experience of staff and people in that organisation. So people that are designing and delivering the services that they deliver around mindset change have lived experience of the barriers their services are designed to address. And that's a key feature of their service. And they work with ex-offenders, young people at risk of criminality, young people at risk of falling out of education, domestic abuse survivors, and so on. So a really wide range of disadvantaged groups that Intuitive work with. And finally, the fourth part of our organisation is AKG Health, which is an allied healthcare team of clinically qualified and non-clinically qualified healthcare practitioners. So we don't take a clinical approach, but we use the clinical knowledge and experience and to deliver more of a coaching type approach to supporting people to have a better understanding and a better relationship with their health and well-being conditions, and helping to remove that as a barrier for people to move into employment. And what we try to do as much as we can is bring those services together as an organisation, and we're starting to do that, where we can see that we can bring health and well-being into the workplace and to support employers to enable their employees to become more resilient, and to also equip managers in businesses, for example, to recognize the signs when people are struggling at work. So these are the kind of the ways in which we bring different services together. So what are we looking to do really with FAIR's future employment support? So these are kind of the fundamental kind of core things that we're really thinking about. So we want to ensure that we can provide a consistent and equitable service across each CPA. These contract package areas are vast. They're really big. They're a real mix of urban and rural areas. And so we really want to ensure that participants accessing the service can have that consistent and equitable access, if you like, to all the provision that's available to them. We really want to collaborate and build a model that involves delivery partners. And that's really key. You know, we have some specialisms within our group, but we actually, you know, we work as we do currently across a large geographical area with many delivery partners, and so we are very keen to ensure that our model involves input and collaboration going forward. We want to work with delivery partners who can also demonstrate they really understand the local characteristics and opportunities of the areas in which they deliver services. Again, going back to what Andy Burnham is talking about, devolution of employment support and localism, we really see that as a key feature going forward. And one thing that DWP also mentioned in July is this potential flexibility in the service, and really looking at how does the service evolve, if you like, as other new priorities and other new services or funding becomes available on a devolved basis, and how does then FAIRS kind of fit with all of that? So kind of delivery partners that kind of understand their local areas, I think it's going to be something that we would, really cherish and want to look at. Ensure our delivery partnership complements local Get Britain working plans and other local strategies, local skills improvement plans, and so on. These kind of local strategies are really evolving and very clearly kind of being locally led through those kind of local plans. So we'd want to ensure that our delivery complements that. And we really encourage the participation of local, small and specialist suppliers in our supply chain. You know, like I say, we do work with a large number of specialist providers. We work with end-to-end delivery partners in our restart provision. So, you know, it is very much part and parcel of how we deliver. Okay, so identifying a delivery partner. So these are the kind of things that we're going to be doing over the next few months. So firstly, we're going to be looking at the CPAs. Now, this is, like I say, activity that's going on now, and we will be doing over the next few months, really even before the ITT comes out at the end of November, because we realise that actually there's a lot of work to do and it's quite a complex model. So we'll be mapping each CPA, looking at the different urban rural splits, looking at where providers are delivering and what kind of coverage the providers have, starting to piece together what that delivery partnership might look like, you know, in terms of end-to-end delivery, specialist, cohort specific. We've not landed on a model yet. We're still exploring this as we find out more from DWP as well in terms of future workshops or webinars that they hold. So it's really piecing together what that delivery partnership will look like in each of those CPAs. But we're really mindful of due diligence as well. I've mentioned previously that there's 70% of the contract value is a payment by results model. So, you know, in terms of, you know, traditionally with DWP programs, if we're flowing down performance requirements to delivery partners, that, you know, that therefore that the payment model is often flowed down. But also we can flex that if it was more of a, you know, fee for service type provision, if it was a service that is being delivered as an intervention rather than with a specific performance requirement that is linked to the main contract, if you like. So that kind of due diligence of ensuring that the providers have the capacity to be able to deliver, but also that we would be able to support that capacity where it's required as well. So we'll be conducting some of that due diligence over the next few months as well, and that is through talking to and engaging with potential delivery partners. The other thing we'll be considering is around affordability. So understanding what the program is there to pay for. So it will have very clear employment outcomes, and we need to consider how we can bring that mix of end-to-end specialist, cohort-specific provision together in a consistent, coordinated, coherent manner that is also affordable for DWP and affordable for us as a prime deliverer of that service, and also value for money. So DWP will be looking for value for money. Now, clearly, there will be sort of services that people joining the program will want to access, and there'll be some services that more participants will access. And not all of those services are available in the community, so there will be, potentially a need to capacity build some of those services that are in the community already. But there are also services that are funded through other government streams and other government funding. So we are very mindful of that value for money that DWP would expect to see as well from this contract. Performance and quality, really important. Obviously, that we have that we can see that performance and quality within a delivery partnership, and also values. Though they do underpin our approach to delivery, they are important to us, and we do try to live those values in the way that we do business, in the way that we engage with delivery partners, and the way that we engage with our participants and stakeholders and everybody. So these are kind of key elements as well. And finally, really, the other thing that we really keep probably going back to on a regular basis is, do we have a clear rationale for our partnership? Is it consistent? Does it provide the consistency of support and service that we want to deliver across a whole patch? And having really a real clear rationale for why we're doing it is really important to us, and it'll be important to DWP as well, because they will see that and they will need to know. So we don't go about this lightly. We understand this is a lot of work, and like I said, we're very openly describing kind of the process that we'll be taking over the next few months. So I'm now going to invite Steve Howe to say a few words about our approach to managing and supporting delivery partners. So Steve, over to you, please.
Thanks, Graeme. Good morning, everybody. So I'm Steve Howe. I'm head of delivery partners for AKG. So this slide is just going to give you a little bit of a flavour of the approach that we take to managing our delivery partners, which we have honed over the last 5 years since obviously we've been in the sector. So the first thing I want to talk about is one team approach, and you probably hear this quite a lot from lots of organisations, but we genuinely believe that this is the approach that we take. This is around collaboration and partnership working across the contract, bringing together our internal delivery and our delivery partners. And an example of that is we bring all of our managers together once a quarter at a forum where we spend a day together looking at our delivery and performance to make sure that we're all aligned. This is really important, and one of my passions is around making sure that wherever that participant walks into a site across our CPA or any of our contracts, that the quality of the service will be the same and the opportunity to move into work will also be the same. So that one team approach is really, really important. The team that I lead, we're all experienced operators. So I've been in the sector for over 25 years, to give you an example, on our restart contract, our delivery partner managers have been restart operations managers and have led sites and regions. And this is really important because from a credibility point of view, but also to be able to support our delivery partners, it's being able to look at it as a partnership in terms of how we can evolve our performance and our delivery. So, that experienced operators within the team is really, really important. Support and challenge. So this is around finding that right balance between support and challenge. So support, where it's needed, and as I've said, on our restart contract, our delivery partner managers are experienced in delivering that contract. So working with our site lead and managers to be able to support with them with the improvements that they need to make, but also on the flip side of that, challenge where we need to. And we really pride ourselves in having very open, transparent, and honest conversations, which are two-way. And that's really important that it is two-way, because that's the only way that, one, we can evolve our support to our delivery partner network, but ultimately how we can improve our contract for our participants that we're supporting. Clear expectations and processes from the start. I think this is really, really important. So we're all on the same page. We know what's expected of us and what we need to be achieving. An example of that is all of our delivery partners know for the whole lifetime of the contracts what their targets will be. So also what the processes are if performance and delivery isn't on track, and how AKG and my team in particular can support our delivery partners with those improvements. Again, this is a partnership approach, and it's about having clear expectations on both sides of the relationship. So hopefully one of the key messages that you'll get from this is that it is about partnership, it is about relationships, it is about collaboration, and ultimately how we can improve things for our participants. The delivery partner management team will be the core team that our delivery partners will work with, but we do have a wide range of wider shared services that we promote and encourage our delivery partners to work alongside. Those wider services are the expertise. So these are things like our performance excellence team, our employer services team, our marketing teams. So we can harness their expertise and work with our delivery partners, again, to help them develop, but also help develop our delivery partner networks for our contracts. Champion expertise and wider offer. So there's a reason why our delivery partners are in our network. They will be community based. They'll bring expertise to the area. They bring a lot of value. And what we don't want to do is to lose our delivery partners' identity and the difference they bring to the contract. So it's really, really important we protect that. We'll obviously, live by a set of principles and SOPs that we need to achieve, but our delivery partners bring something different to the contract, which we want to protect. It's also how we can harness their wider services, not only for our contract, but other contracts that we're delivering, but also how our delivery partners, for an example, on Restart, can use other provision to enhance the service that they can provide to their participants and ultimately support more of our participants into employment. One of the things I think we're really good at is tools to enhance our delivery and performance. We're always looking at ways to improve. And again, that collaboration and partnership that we do across the CPA is really important in being able to identify those opportunities. Again, to give you an example of that, we've rolled out a number of AI tools, which we've done right across our delivery. So that's our internal delivery and our delivery partners. So AKG have invested in our delivery partners, and those AI tools have been rolled out to reduce admin on the front line, which will allow our employment coaches and frontline staff to be able to spend more quality time with our participants, which ultimately is what these employability contracts are about. Sharing best practice. AKG doesn't know it all, and it's key to our approach, and we're making sure that we're sharing best practice at different levels. So that's bringing frontline community together, such as employment coaches, business managers, as I've mentioned at our quarterly forums, and sharing that best practice across the delivery. And we've developed many new approaches through best practice that's been shared via our DP networks, and again, using that to improve our delivery and performance. And just feeding on from that, our delivery partners are very involved in our continuous improvement. Over the last couple of years, we've rolled out a number of different continuous improvement projects, one of those being the AI tools that we've rolled out very recently. And this is to ensure that we don't do and what I mean by that is that our delivery partners are involved in initial exploration, piloting of any new continuous improvement projects, and also championing those continuous improvement projects as well. The contribution of our DPs is crucial because, as I say, it's a one-team approach. For Restart, we're one CPA, and ultimately it's about coming together to do the best by our participants and ultimately our commissioners as well. And then finally, AKG family. Again, you'll probably hear this a lot, and you might think this is I'm just saying this, but the AKG family is four businesses in the UK that make up AKG that Graeme's mentioned at the start of the presentation. But our delivery partners complement this, and we see them as being equally as important and as part of our AKG family. So for me, it's about we grow together, we achieve together, and we succeed for our participants together. So hopefully that gives you a little bit of a flavour of the delivery partner management approach that we take at AKG. Next, I'd like to introduce Kylee Bates, who is the Chief Operating Officer for WorkPays, to say a few words. So over to you, Kylee.
Thanks, Steve. And I feel like I should say up front, this is not a paid advertisement for AKG, and as prime contractors do, and they hold their delivery partners to account and accountability. I was doing that as I was looking at Steve's list of 10 things about working with AKG, and asked myself, could I say yes to that as that is true, and I can actually say that. So just as a little bit of context, I am the Chief Operating Officer across a number of companies in the Brightpeak Group, but WorkPays is a restart partner of AKG. We have been since the beginning of the contract. I have been involved really in the last 12 plus months, being relatively new to the business in that period of time. We operate across 5 sites in Leicestershire and Northants. So we have Leicester, Corby, Kettering, Market Harborough and Hinckley. And I guess I really wanted to share a bit of our experience of working with AKG as a delivery partner who 12 plus months ago, I think fair to say, had some notable performance challenges with the contract. And AKG had a very, upfront and open conversation certainly after a period of time of, seeing some declining performance with our CEOs about, where we were at and what needed to happen in order to rectify some of those challenges. And as anyone who's been in this sector a long time knows, there's a range of things that can contribute to that. But once you're at that place, you need to rapidly address it, or there's only one way that things can go. We had a couple of operational managers leave the business around that time. When I became involved, as I say, I was fairly new to the business. It was pretty evident across our 5 sites that there was probably a pretty lackluster team culture, largely, I think, because, they had not been performing for some time. Staff can often not see the forest for the trees. But really, what was really evident to me, and, the prime subcontracting model was newer to me, having worked in Australia in this sector where that at the time was not as predominant. It was really clear in working with AKG that they were very clear about expectations and working with the right levels of management at each of the organisations. So, Steve and I were having pretty direct conversations and open conversations about where we needed to work together, while on the ground, the delivery managers were actively in there supporting staff and teams. What I found particularly valuable is that, I think everything, to be fair, that Steve just went through, did come through pretty quickly. It was about valuing the relationship and the support that was needed. So while there was a desire for consistency of approach, it wasn't a vanilla approach and we do this over here, so do exactly that there. It was taking into account the context of local labour market, skills and staffing. I think what I really appreciated was the actual genuine sense of investment in us as a delivery partner, and that was hands-on support as needed. Even to the point, in a couple of instances, the delivery manager supported some recruitment that we were doing because we were a bit thin on the ground. Now, they certainly didn't have decision-making rights on who we were hiring, but it was great to be able to draw on that expertise that Steve referenced. The investment that has been shown, I think, in the tools, absolutely evident, and we've had great feedback from staff around that, but as well as more of that bespoke support. So I was able to have conversations with head of employer engagement and draw on some knowledge and expertise and build that into the plans that we had going forward. I've certainly found the relationship to be always super professional. I think we have really appreciated the transparency about, well, if you deliver this, you'll be here. If you deliver that, you'll be here, and what the opportunity and or consequences of that is. So I think that's really important in this business where, clarity is essential. We all need to be working together and moving in the right direction, as well as the openness that AKG have had, about, their own conversations with DWP more generally in terms of, where they might be at as a provider and the role that the delivery partners play in that. I think, and I would like to sort of just, mention the forums that Steve, I myself went to one of those. The target group is much more the business manager, operations manager level. But, I could experience firsthand that sense of collaboration. It's not just words, it is genuine. I came away feeling additionally motivated as a result of spending the day with others. And that's certainly an expectation, or certainly the feedback that I've had from my team who've gone to those much more frequently. So I think probably I mentioned the professionalism of the relationship, but it does feel like we are working with colleagues, not somebody who is at arm's length and, just looks at some numbers and sends an email. So I think that, again, is really important for sustainability in this sector. So I think I would summarise it to the relationship and the working with AKG is, to us, it's always very clear where we stand, good, bad or indifferent, how decisions are made within the organisation of AKG, the timeliness of those decisions, how as a subcontractor or a delivery partner we can leverage what they have in terms of, the larger remit. And I think fair to say we really, really value working with them and hope to continue to do so into the future. So thanks, Steve, and Graeme, for the opportunity to share that.
Thanks, Kylee.
Super. Steve, Kylee, thank you ever so much. That was wonderful. Joe, you've got your hand up there.
I have put my hand up. There was just a question in the chat that was relevant to delivery partners, so I thought I'd just interrupt now. Just to ask, are organisations allowed to work with multiple primes?
As far as we understand, yes.
That was my thinking.
Yep.
I thought I would check with the experts.
Yeah, they are.
Brilliant. Thank you very much.
Super. Thank you very much, Kylee. Thanks, Steve, as well. It's wonderful.
That's great.
Okay, so just moving on. So how do we want to engage with you? You'll see here on the left-hand side some AKG activity and some dates, and some DWP activity and dates. Obviously, this is all indicative, as we've been told from DWP that this is at the moment the dates. But essentially, please complete our EOI. If you've already completed the EOI that we put out in April, it's the same EOI. So we're not asking if you've already completed it to complete it again. It's the same EOI. We've nuanced it slightly and refined it slightly now that we know where the CPAs are and how they're made up, which we didn't know when we put the EOI out in April. But the EOI is the same. So we're not asking you if you've already completed it to complete it again. It gives us enough information for us over the coming months to be able to forge some ideas and understanding about the services you deliver and where you deliver. So it's available on that link. I'm sure Joe is putting it in the chat as I speak. Looks like she probably is.
I'm on it.
There we are. I thought you would be. So the expression of interest is out. It's on our partnership portal, and you'll be able to access that from our website. And then again, we'll put it all out with the slides and with a recording of this webinar in our news feature as well, and also on the partnership portal. So plenty of opportunities to access it. We're going to have the EOI open until the 28th of August. Then whilst we're opening the EOI and we're reading the EOIs that are coming back, we'll with the consideration of our model, start to reach out and start talking to providers and make contact to discuss your service delivery and understand a little bit more about what you do and how you do it. And that'll be through sort of August, September. What we hope to do by sort of September, October is start to draw up some NDAs and commitments to further engage, letters of intent. At the same time, DWP have committed to a further third market engagement event that they said that they'll be delivering in September, which will give us a little bit more information there. And then really from October to November, we'd like to start to engage with delivery partners to be involved in some co-design workshops with us based on a CPA basis. Again, by this point, we've not bid yet at stage one. So that's when the stage one submission period is on. And so we still don't know where we're going to be. So we're very conscious of that. So we don't want to provide or ask for more time and more information than is prudent to do so and respectful to do so, because we don't know where we're going to get on with the long list of CPAs that we're interested in. But we'd like to start having some of those discussions and workshops or co-design discussions with organisations that we'll be keen to work with. Then moving through stage two, hopefully we get onto the CPAs that we want to be able to bid for into stage two, and the stage two submission period that DWP have staged is sort of 3rd of February through to the 24th of February, and then stage two commercial dialogue from sort of March through to May. So during that period, when we've had those kind of more informed and more detailed discussions with delivery partners we'd like to work with, then we'd probably be putting out a request for information from those kind of shortlisted delivery partners, because we're going to be needing to make sure that we can illustrate and demonstrate all the great work that our delivery partners are doing in each of those areas. DWP are publishing a final ITT on the 13th of May as it currently stands, and then there'll be the best and final offer submission period from the 13th of May through to the 14th of June. So during that period, we would want to finalise some delivery partner agreements and ensure that we've answered any questions and any clarifications as well with potential delivery partners and delivery partners at that point. And then, as you can see, DWP's activity will run on. So stage 3 evaluation period, stage 2 evaluation complete by 30th of July. They're intending to issue contract award notices 23rd of September, contracts signed by October, sort of mid-October, and then service go live 7th of February 2028. So that's how our activity kind of aligns with what DWP are planning, and that is hopefully how it will go forward. And like I said, dates are indicative and it could always be subject to change, but that's as far as we know how it's going to go. Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing so I can see people, and it's the opportunity to ask any questions, and we would do our absolute utmost to answer them. If we don't get through every question now, then put on a Q&A. If it's in the chat, we'll put it onto a written up Q&A, and we'll include that with the slides and the recording and so on. So we've got 20 minutes. If anybody wants to raise a hand, then we'll take you off mute and you can ask that way, or by all means put it in the Q&A or the chat. So Jovan has a question.
I'm obviously raising my hand. So I was just about to respond to Kate in here, but as you have now opened the floor to questions, we have a question in the chat. Which says, you mentioned that the government is co-designing the contract with mayoral authorities. CPA 6 includes more than one MCA, so is it likely the offering will look different in different parts of the CPA? A lot of acronyms in there.
I don't know. I mean, that's within DWP's gift, I suppose. It would be, if it was vastly different, it would kind of be strange, I suppose, in terms of DWP's approach, because they would want to have a consistent model of delivery across all of the CPAs. But yeah, absolutely right. I mean, there are 3 combined authorities, aren't there, in that CPA, and that would be an interesting conversation, wouldn't it, across each of those patches with DWP. They haven't got into the detail, DWP, of that's really all they've said is that they were looking to co-design with MSAs. We don't really know how, what's the criteria for that, whether or not that would change the delivery in each of those CPAs. But I suppose traditionally, DWP would want to have more of a consistent model of delivery and approach across all the areas. So, for example, then unlikely to change a payment mechanism in one CPA opposed to another, they would still focus on the same customer groups that would be engaged, but there might be some certain nuances in the particular area because it's a particular sub-regional area within the CPA that they might be mindful of that, but generally not change things. That is kind of my take on it.
Thank you, Graeme. There's been a few questions about the expression of interest. So I have put that both in the Q&A and in the chat. So there's a link on our partnership portal, and if you just scroll down to the bottom, it will say complete expression of interest form. So just to let everybody know, if you haven't yet filled out your EOI, you have until the 28th of August, as Graeme says. But we don't have any other questions in the Q&A at the moment. Ruth has her hand up, yes.
Ruth has her hand up. Hi, Ruth.
Got to try and get you off mute, Ruth.
Oh,
Bear with me.
Hang on, Ruth.
Hold on. Technical issues now. I need to scroll down and find you. Ruth, okay. Oh, it's not letting me take off your mic. I do apologise.
Ruth, you should be able to unmute yourself now.
I can now. Thank you.
Thanks,
yes,
Jack.
hi, I'm Ruth from Clean Sheet.
Ruth.
I'm just wondering, I think you implied or said that you would be paid by results by DWP, and therefore that would be passed on to you, to the partners that you work with, the subcontractors. Do you have any indication at the moment of what results exactly would look like? I mean, obviously people into work, but is it what have you kind of set any guidelines in terms of what the targets would be, and in terms of the sort of 30% service fee, is that based on the provider's costs? And also you said it's important that it's affordable to the DWP. Have you been given any indication of what's affordable to the DWP? Have you got any guidelines?
Right, thank you. Good question. So in terms of the payment by results, I suppose that element traditionally with DWP projects, if you're flowing, if as a prime contractor, you're flowing down the performance expectations from the head of contract, typically the kind of the payment model follows. If you're a provider that's delivering more of a specialist service, that might be more of a fee for service, that might be completely different. So therefore, as an affordability, we as the prime provider would need to consider how do we cost that within a PBR model where 70% of your income is based on the performance and the achievement of the outcome. Do you see what I mean? So you'd be paying for a service that is perhaps an intervention or a specialism within the journey rather than the whole end-to-end journey. But if you were delivering the whole end-to-end journey, let's say in a geographical area, then there is a target that will flow down from the main contract, and therefore that typically those kind of terms flow down. And obviously that's kind of got to balance that, I think, as well, with DWP's desire to have more SMEs involved in delivery. And so there is that's why, in terms of talking about due diligence earlier, it's kind of really understand that we're not putting organizations in a difficult situation, if you like. There are cash flow implications as well, so we need to consider all of that. In terms of what the performance outcomes would be on Restart, it's about it's an increase in earnings, basically, and in terms of people sustaining in employment, increasing their earnings as they progress in employment. It's likely to be very similar. Is that it's geared towards job outcomes and people retaining and progressing in employment. I don't think we've Natasha, I don't know if we've seen explicitly what the KPIs are going to be, unless you've seen something I haven't seen.
No, I think all they've talked about is the job and higher threshold outcomes. Okay. And it's the 18 hours a week is the threshold, isn't it? Which is slightly different than Restart currently.
Mm-hmm. And just, I think finally, you mentioned affordability. What does that look like? I suppose. I suppose it's that, as I was kind of saying earlier, really, in terms of how we build a commercial model to deliver the service, we need to be very cognizant of the fact that 70% of the income for the contract is on a performance basis, and that 30% service fee is there to to essentially mobilise and be able to bed in the service. So services that we pay for would need to be considered in that context, that to achieve the outcome will generate the income. We've still got to pay for those services as well. So it's kind of seeing what is affordable within the provision. If DWP, for example, are funding other services, or the NHS are funding other services, and there is the capacity in those services to be able for people to access, I don't think what DWP are necessarily saying in terms of the support that's required is that this service pays for all of it. There will be services that are existing in the community where those services don't have the capacity, because there is a high volume of people going to be needing to access those services, and it's recognised that will be the need for people on the programme. Then in that facilitate, we would look at those services, say, how do we capacity build that service? So because we don't want to put pressure or undue strain on those kind of services in the community. So it's quite a complex kind of matrix of understanding how the funding and what you want to fund and what you want to pay for meets within the budget, but also being really aware of that 70% of that contract budget is based on performance.
Okay, thank you. And would training be included in an outcome if it was leading towards, in a more long term, a better work outcome?
Yes, I guess so, but I suppose it also depends on the type of training that comes in, and if that training is also already available in through other funding streams. So yeah, I think it's really broad at this stage, and that's why over the next few months we're really going to try and get our heads together and figure out how do we piece this rather complex puzzle together in each of the CPAs. But yes, yeah, I mean, I'm not going to say that there's nothing that isn't within scope at this stage, because that's the nature of what DW have told us at the moment. What we haven't got to yet is we're not going to see an ITT until November. So actually the real kind of detail of that. But we, like all the other prime bidders who are going to be bidding for this service, have already made a start, and they're all doing what we're doing, making a start and starting to engage with providers. So thank you for your question, Ruth. That's great.
Graeme, I've got loads of questions for you.
Oh, okay. So I guess do my best.
Okay. So let me just try and get these in the order. So the questions coming through in both the Q&A and chat. So I will try and get to these in the order. Liam's asked, the DWP aspirational 40% target includes VCSEs and SMEs. The 25% didn't mention VCSE. Is this just an SME target?
Question. Part of the ambiguity, perhaps, that we're still not 100% clear. They've mentioned SMEs, they've mentioned VCSEs as well, but some VCSEs are big companies, so big organizations rather. My take is that they were leaning more towards SME in that definition of a 25%, and then overall kind of a 40% aspiration that included VCSEs. I think that's how they're looking at it. I don't know, Tash, have you got a alternative view?
No, I agree, but I would just say that they haven't kind of nailed it down, have they? They've said that's their current proposed approach, but it might well still change.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Liam. I hope that's helped to answer. Adele has asked, how different, this is a good question, how different in your view is future employment support versus Restart? What do you think DWP has tried to change? And given that Connect to Work is focused on specialist support and health conditions, how would you describe the difference between future employment support and Connect to Work?
Okay. I don't want
just to say I've put a little summary in there already, because I think providers have been asking the department about Connect to Work and the issues kind of with potential duplication. And actually the department has pretty much just advised that future employment support will be the intensive work search regime claimants, whereas Connect to Work isn't or shouldn't be. So I can't see that they would want people on both programs, because they don't want that at the moment with Connect to Work and Restart. So that hopefully nails that one down. And then just in terms of future employment support and Restart, they're similar but they're different, I guess, is the summary from me. There are obvious similarities, some of the cohorts, not all of them, some of the geography, not all of it, the 12-month journey, the the job outcome kind of focus is very similar, but the model and the interventions they've talked about different things. They've increased their focus on some different cohorts, so lone parents and carers, for example, and young people, I think are more of a focus this time. And noticeably, obviously, Wales is not in scope now. That will sit within the Welsh Employability Support Programme procurement. Graeme, any other nuances?
You know, they kind of particularly spelled out self-employment, which they hadn't done previously with Restart. So, you know, they made some really clear that, you know, a kind of methodology, if you like, to provide that support self-employment. I think there's more tempo, more activity than they've, you know, specifically spelled out, to work trials, work experience, and so on. They've mentioned that more so perhaps than they had previously. But yeah, absolutely, they have kind of recognised. So with Restart, I think when we started delivering Restart, what we recognised very quickly was that a large number of people were coming on to the programme with health conditions that perhaps hadn't been treated because of COVID at the time, and so therefore they kind of worsened, and so therefore we deliberately established that kind of clinical team, Health Finders it was then, now AKG Health, to address those kind of needs. It's now been called out as recognising that there are this kind of wider range of barriers that people will have, and recognition that you know, support needs to be able to help people to navigate those kind of challenges as well.
Thank you very much.
Got a hand up, Joe.
There is a hand up.
Yeah.
Bear with me. Jack, can you help with the technology on this part for me, please?
Yes, your mic should now be active, caller.
Yes, hi, it's Melanie here. I'm representing the WorkWell programme in Leicester, and very just following on from what Natasha was explaining around Connect to Work, because we're kind of aligning and working very closely with Connect to Work colleagues, and also very mindful about duplicating. I know DWP is very clear that clients should not be on two programs concurrently. I just need some clarity on how would future employment support and WorkWell align or work together. Just a little bit unclear, so I just thought.
So, well, I think join the club.
Right, okay.
We're not quite sure either, really. So they have, I guess, WorkWell is now being expanded, isn't it? So it's going to be covering all of England. I don't know whether the actual delivery of the WorkWell model is going to change at the same time, but I would. The future employment support for those on universal credit 25 plus or 18 to 24, it's going to be a mandation route. So I guess there will be some parameters through which, you know, people will go through that route if they're receiving universal credit, and therefore if they're not, they could access other services like Connect to Work or perhaps WorkWell. And I know I've spoken to Glenn one of your colleagues in the past, and I know he's talking about how do you manage the flow of people wanting to access services, to understand that they go to the right route, and that might be something that needs to be considered by DWP in the future as well. And those discussions with the NHS and about how do you route people to the right service, and understanding where, you know, if people are mandated to attend because of their conditionality, that they do go down that route because of that. They go down the right route, if you like. So we don't know, essentially. It's my short. It's a very long answer to say we don't know.
But work in progress, no problem.
But it is a work in progress, and I can see that. Yeah.
Right, thank you.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Just to go to one of the questions in the chat, somebody has asked that they've gained approval through the original EOI, but let me read what they've actually written, so I'm not paraphrasing and getting it wrong. I just wanted to ask, because of the areas you are seeking to focus on which are not on our current patch, is it worth us resubmitting the EOI, identifying our specialist offer that we could offer on the CPAs you are focusing on? So I think they're saying, do you want us to tell you about the other CPAs as well? Or if there's one EOI in, is that okay?
If the EOI that they've completed doesn't include what they deliver in the areas that we're now interested in, now that we know the CPAs that we're interested in, then yes, probably, because we wouldn't know the services that are there. I have read all the EOIs that we have received. I've been through them all. So if you've got my contact details, which you probably have, because I kept them, made them available to everybody, by all means reach out and get in touch and send it directly to me if you want to, in terms of the additional information, and we'll put it into your EOI. I don't want to make it more onerous for organisations to do more work than they need to. But if you've already completed the EOI, then we'll have your contact details. If it is a matter of just adding a bit to it that you've already done because you didn't specify the areas then that we now know, then just either come back to me direct.
Thank you very much. I'm going to try and rush through a couple more questions. Like I say, if we don't get to your questions, we'll collate them all and send out responses after. Do you anticipate 2P applying to this contract? If so, what approach will you take to sharing that obligation with your supply chain?
That's a good question. I think it's a TBC from DWP. That sounds very good, doesn't it? A TC. Well, it's a to be confirmed. I think the question was asked at the last webinar by DWP. They were taking it away. They haven't decided, but I don't think they explicitly said no. 2P wouldn't apply. But yeah.
Watch this space.
If it did apply, would we flow it down? I think it all depends, doesn't it? If 2P did apply, it depends on the particular roles, the type of service being delivered. If it was a delivery partner that was taking a large sort of end-to-end chunk in a particular region that is being delivered by another provider currently, then that would be a discussion, certainly, because there will be staff that will be experienced and able to deliver. So I would say it's really up in the air at the moment until we have a bit more information from DWP about the position on 2P. Once we know, then we can determine what our approach would be.
Thank you. Do you want one more?
Yep, got 2 minutes.
2 minutes. Okay. To what degree do you envisage lived experience engagement focused on understanding cohort-specific employment barriers forming part of the Commission's scope?
Forming part of the Commissioner's scope, it's not been referenced explicitly that lived experience is part of what they're looking to commission, but certainly adds value, and it's great value to being able to engage with people onto the programme, particularly when we have included in affairs, the voluntary groups that could access the service as well. So I think lived experience always plays a massive part. But actually, we all have everybody has a level of lived experience in one way or another of the services that we deliver and access and so on. So I think lived experience is always beneficial, but it's not something that they're explicitly commissioning.
Okay, thank you. 1 minute. Here we go. Last one.
Go on then.
Given the scale of a mobilisation likely to be required, particularly frontline recruitment, is AKG seeing any appetite from DWP to recognise recruitment and mobilisation costs within the bid model, similar to what we saw in some post-COVID programmes, or are providers expected to absorb these costs?
So mobilisation costs?
Yes. And recruitment costs.
They've not been explicit that there is a separate funding for mobilisation of the service. Okay. That might change. I think if there's enough of us say that they should consider it, and enough providers that do lobby for that kind of funding to be available, then yeah, it should be. But DWP traditionally, I don't think have ever really provided a mobilisation pot. Is that right, Tasha, in your experience? Can't remember a contract that they have.
I think they have on some smaller procurements recently, but I guess it's a watch this space, isn't it?
Yeah.
Fabulous.
I guess what we would do is, as the prime provider, we would support with recruitment costs earlier and support with recruitment, so that as a delivery partnership, we would take a one team approach to recruitment. So we would lean in with our resources and our support, and to enable that to happen.
Excellent. I'm just going to put one last thing in because I think that captures the bulk of the questions, and any individuals I'm trying to get a response to now that's a bit more specific. But is there any expectation for any accredited training to be funded through future employment support, or will this be something that providers need to source externally?
I think that's down for providers as part of their delivery model to determine whether that's something that they want to include, but it's not explicitly part of what DWP are seeking to purchase through this program, put it that way. But yeah, we'll all have a view, I think, as prime providers that are seeking to bid it, as to how or where that kind of accredited training might fit. So yeah, so again, it's not off the agenda, put it that way. Listen, I'm very conscious of time. I know people are probably having to move on. Thank you ever so much for coming along today. It's lovely to see everybody. I hope that was useful. Yeah, you'll see more of us, I'm sure, over the coming months. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.